Well, hello, folks. This is Top Gun here, live Pulse Radio. So today we're going to be having a little bit of fun. As you may have noticed, we are going to be joining us will be Walrus from HowToPulse.com. We're going to talk security today. How to keep yourself safe and not get scammed. Want to keep your assets? I bet you do. Let's keep your assets safe. So joining us here is Walrus. Hey, Walrus, how you doing today?
What's going on, brother? It's good to see you, man. We spent a little time talking, but first time on stream together, man.
Yeah, so this is exciting. Like, I don't know if you got to see the pain I gave for KG, but probably be nicer to you. And I did give you the safe word, unlike him.
Right. KJ's a good guy, man. I'm glad you gave him a hard time. Sometimes he's got a big head underneath all that hair.
Oh, yeah. Like, I just had fun getting people to get to know him. That's what I'm going to do after this. But we are going to look seriously at security and safety with crypto. So, folks, we're going to blast through this pretty quickly because I know you don't have an attention span because TikTok happened and you're a Gen Zer. So we're going to blast through this in under 5 minutes because that's about as much time as you ever want to take on my channel. And then we'll go back and talk about these seriously and in depth for anybody who actually wants to learn something. All right. So Walrus doesn't even have any idea what these talking points are. Are you ready for like speed dating versus security? Boom. Topic 1.
Mode, let's go.
Use a secure internet connection. What are we talking about?
So it's obviously much more important if you're using things like software wallets where you have very sensitive data exposed on there. But primarily, you always want to be using something that's secure at home, using hotspots. If you have to be public, you do things mobile, you're using Graphene OS devices, fancier things like that. You want to make sure you're using a hotspot, right? So you need to assume that if you're using public Wi-Fi, everything can be seen, everything can be accessed. You just need to assume that that's a compromised spot, right? Like just assume that there's someone looking over you.
So stay at home, stay safe, and don't use public Wi-Fi. All right. Point 2. Copy that seed phrase down on paper. Why is that important?
So whenever I make life-changing wealth, I want to be able to spend it. It's not just a high score on Tetris to me. It's not just fun on the screen. I want to turn digital assets into real life assets at some point, right? As fun as it is to just be out on there and brag, I want to be able to have the swimming pool, the hot tub, the big house. You got to have the yacht, things like that. So you got to have this. You got to have that seed phrase secure. So there are millions, if not billions, of dollars locked up in different places because people can't access those funds anymore. So having that seed phrase secure, either on paper in very secure ways and fireproof bags. You need to treat it like it's a bearer bond. Like that seed phrase is all your money and all your gains. It has to be locked away securely. It needs to be, fire protection. You can use titanium. There's washers. There's a lot of neat ways. Just make sure you do what makes sense for yourself and keep them locked away.
All right. That kind of goes into our third topic point about keeping it safe. So basically, if you lose that seed phrase, you're never getting your assets. And if anyone else gets that seed phrase, you've lost your assets.
And we'll tie again into some of the best practices on this. So certain things in certain places you can use more complicated methods, but in general, if it takes you more than 2 or 3 sentences to explain, you're probably screwing something up, right? I've worked with a ton of compromised clients. The vast majority of the time, it's exposed hardware wallets or exposed seeds on software wallets, or they literally just gave the seeds to somebody. That's it. So the rest of this is about protecting 1%. And remember that you can go over the top on stopping that 1% and make it much more likely that you screw it up. So it's a balance, that convenience versus security. So keep them secure. Don't get too cute. Just be safe.
Okay. So don't save it in a picture on my phone because those are safe, and don't save it on a text file on a computer. Write it down.
No, nothing digital. Don't leave it on your desk at work. Don't put it on your work laptop. Don't screenshot it to the cloud. Don't listen to anybody tell you that their XYZ password is secure or this is a this and that encrypted file. Okay. It's all nonsense. Keep it secure in the physical world. Keep it locked down.
So something you might actually want to buy a safety deposit box for.
That's a careful one. So it depends a little bit. Make sure you double check your jurisdictions. Because if it's in a safety deposit box, it can fall under bank custodianship in certain places. So it's not the best, but it may be better than people doing things. So make sure you have a balance between knowing your own life and your own skill set versus possibly taking on a little different type of risk exposure with having bank custodianship.
Okay. And now when setting up a MetaMask, obviously, since that seed phrase, that security phrase, those 12 words are so important, it doesn't matter. I could use my birthday for the password on MetaMask, right?
So if you're doing things correctly, I should be able to give everybody that password. Should do them no good. And if you're doing things in even more sophisticated ways, I should be able to give you the seed and the password and not help. So don't ever do that. We're going to talk about why that's done a certain way. But yes, if you're using hardware wallets and secure type devices, then the password should be almost irrelevant. But typically, how you do one thing is how you do everything. So if you're doing a bad job securing the seed, if you're doing a bad job with the password, what any one of these steps, if you're doing them in a in a less than exceptional fashion, you're probably going to screw something else up in the future. So
Okay.
take every step like it's always a step protecting that $1,000,000.
So the simple answer is yes, use a complicated password. Don't use your birthday. It does
Exactly.
matter. All right. Moving along. All right. It's okay to not put all your eggs in one basket, as in, hey, multiple hardware wallets, multiple wallets. If you actually spread this stuff out and one does somehow get compromised, you don't lose everything, right?
So I like to talk about the assets that I protect them the same way I would protect things in the real world.
Mm-hmm.
If you ask for $5, I'll probably just hand you a $5 bill. If you want $50, maybe I don't carry that much cash. Maybe I'll just Cash App, Zelle, one of those intermediaries. If you ask me for $5,000, I'm probably gonna wire that, right? I'm probably not gonna like let some random third party thing in the middle. If you ask me for $5 million, we're gonna have an escrow in the middle, and there's gonna be a process on that, right? Like I'm not just gonna go and send that to you, right? So that should happen similar in crypto. So if I have a regular software wallet on my phone that doesn't require a hardware wallet, but it has a few $100 in there at most, right? And that's for the few opportunities I have to actually just spend crypto it's at point of sale, different locations, or I want to onboard somebody, I want to throw them $50 a hex, something like that. So that wallet doesn't have anything is attached to my my larger funds, any of those things. It's very simple, it's exposed, it's fine, it's convenient, but I'm willing to take the risk profile, right? It's almost like a debit card. You get it, you still a couple $100 from me. I'm irritated, no big deal. And then I have things that are protected by hardware wallets, and then I have things that are protected by multiple hardware wallets and things like Gnosis that are multi-sig. So you scale it up based on the amount of funds. And again, you want to offset how difficult you make that security versus knowing how confident you are. Like, be honest with yourself. So I scale it up based on the amount of funds.
So basically, it's okay to insulate yourself. It's okay to store multiple wallets as long as you don't lose that seed. I love this. This is you keeping things simple. The in-depth portion is going to be great.
Mm-hmm.
The Gen Zers are like, I thought you said this would be simple.
This is it, guys.
All right. So this is extra security. VPNs and firewalls were invented for a reason, right?
They are. And again, it's one of those that they're not cure-alls like most of these things in crypto, but if you're taking the time to use these things, you're probably going to be better off, right? So like when we look at things like the results for like diets and things, no matter how bad the diet is, it almost always end up giving positive results because there's a healthy user bias. Someone who just takes the time to be conscientious and pay attention to what they're eating in any way, whether they're right or wrong on any sort of whatever nutrition science you're into, it almost always produces some sort of a better positive result over baseline. And that's how I think of a lot of these things. If you're using a firewall correctly, if you're using a VPN correctly, if you have hardware wallets, if you have a Gnosis safe, even if those aren't what keep you safe, I'm willing to bet you're not going to lose the funds because you're being conscientious and taking every step seriously.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. So moving along then. There we go. So hardware wallets. Before you get going on this, keeping it simple, we'll come back to it. I'm going to give you an A-B choice here. So if I were the basic ones that I've heard are a good idea are Ledger and Trezor. So if I had to pick one, and let's say I'm a noob and I have no idea how to operate this thing and I might get confused easy, which one's easier to get tech support for?
So if you weren't Top Gun Hexagon and you were just Top Gun, I would tell you to take your pick. But since you're a Hexagon and you have access to our community, it's likely to be Trezor because you have guys like Papa B, Papa Boner, for everyone who doesn't know what I'm talking about, he's less than a god, but he's definitely more than a man. That guy's a superhero for our community, and we have guys like J Money on the HowToPulse team, who's every bit as diligent, spends a ton of time. So they're both two buttons in a screen. They're relatively similar. If you aren't going to have a lot of access to the community, you can just get on there, look at both softwares. They're online. They're very similar, but if one speaks to you, just go that way. As long as you're using one, you'll be fine. But if you are in our community and you know a lot of the hitters in the space, Trezor gets the +1 for me because there's just a little higher level because of our greatest security guys that have chosen to use them. So it's a preference in the community.
Perfect. All right. And then I know this one will also want to get you talking a lot, but we'll hit it quickly. and then we'll say the Gen Zers can tune off, and we'll go back into all this stuff deeper.
Here's your TikTok moments.
All right. So avoid phishing attacks, please. How do we do that? What are they? Why do people keep talking about them?
So whatever it is that you call God in your particular set, religion, everything, if he calls you and asks for your seed words, you tell him no. The only people who need your seed words are you and your mirror. That's it. Keep them being safe. There is no exceptions. There's a very, very particular reason that we need them for the XBot, which we'll dial on later. That is the only exemption I can think of. Everything else, people are trying to steal your money. You should think of those seeds like a bearer bond. If I have those seeds, that's not your money. That's my money. And you did it right there as soon as you handed it to me.
All right, perfect. Now, this is the last talking point we'll hit quickly, and we'll go back and we'll actually take the in-depth security look for everyone who actually wants to learn a little bit more. So you are a part of the team with HowToPulse.com, and that is what helping people learn how to navigate this new network. And what the heck is NFT on Pulse? Sum it up in less than a minute.
It is the greatest conglomeration of big brains in our space. No, it's a lot of great guys. We have a dev team. We have in-house counsel. There's myself, Jay Money. It's a composite group of a lot of people who really focus on education, who bring up a lot of game theory in the space. We do the Twitter storms. We spend thousands of dollars every month on outboard marketing. We're the ones who built the XBot, the wallet saver. We have NFT on Pulse coming. That's our NFT marketplace. So we are everything about Pulse. It's the best place to start. It's somewhere you can grow with. There's front ends for the delegation. It's everything. If you're in the Pulse ecosystem and it's a place to start to bring everybody for onboarding. It's a place to keep growing your education pretty much no matter what skill level you're at. It's the place to be. We were very, very proud of the team and the product we've built.
All right, and let's actually show the viewers this for a moment. So this is a nice smooth layout, good graphics. It's actually simple, easy interface, not hard on the eyes. You've got your Pulse chain, your Hex, your tools, your wallets, your Pulse X, Shill, and more. All right. Yep. All right, now again, I keep bugging you guys.
There's Hex. There's tools we have for looking at like the sacrifice sets. There's a blog portion with great education talking about ratio trading, bridge use, all this cool stuff. We'll touch on some more of those more advanced later on, but there's everything you could ask for using hardware wallets. A lot of great education, a lot of great stuff.
Beautiful. All right. Well, thanks for blasting through quickly with that with me. Because I know that's hard for you. You're a very well educated man with a lot of very clear points to make. And it's just, I realized I'm trying to reach a lot of people with very limited attention spans. And it's like, you got to put this into one sentence that sounds ridiculous, something they can remember. And that's where I was just teasing you a little bit. Like, okay, this is the simple version.
We have to, and again, we talked a little bit off camera that we're like, we got to make sure people watch this, right? Like, this isn't one that we care about viewership. I care about your guys' funds. This doesn't make me money. Top Gun doesn't pay me, even though he's a big baller. We don't make extra money off hardware wallets. There's no shills. There's no referral links. There's nothing here. This is just because I don't want you guys to get your funds stolen. I need you guys to share the worldview, to be on board with us. I need you guys not to go tell everybody that you lost your money in our space, that you did things confidently, that you had wealth, and keep onboarding. Don't get stolen from. Don't lose your money. Enjoy the gains.
Yeah, for sure. I love it. You call me a big baller. You realize, like, one of my catch lines is I'm poor enough that I have eaten Spam from a can my whole life. Like, this computer is almost 10 years old. It smokes sometimes when I just try to go to a website. Like, and then I risk the fire hazard just to give people a background.
It's all about framing. So you just really are a big fan of Hawaiian cuisine.
Yeah. For sure. Yeah, no, that works. All right. So we brushed over this quickly for using a secure internet connection. I mean, when I try to put this into simple terms, a connection you control, that you know that you're the only traffic on this connection, is a secure connection. Anything where you share that traffic, a public Wi-Fi, is not secure. Other devices can now see you and interact with you inside the firewall that would normally protect you.
And the thing about crypto that makes it unique for a lot of these things is that there's security is important because it's a barrier to entry to whatever the return is, right? So if I tell you that there's a really, really difficult safe to crack and there's $500 in there, Who cares? You're probably not gonna spend the time to crack the safe and go through the work and build up FireTorch. If I tell you there's a seed phrase in there and it's got my bags in there, people got time now, right? Exactly. Now you start dialing stuff up. You got the earpiece in. You're doing the whole works, right? So the thing about a lot of the secure things is that there's you know there's just a huge return on the other side that people aren't used to experiencing. So when they think, you need to put on a little bit of your tinfoil hat for some of this stuff because you've likely never had to think about security with the incentive that's on the other side, right? Like think about all these
Mhm.
hacks. So, most of us haven't had our personal files hacked. Honestly, most of us aren't that interesting. We're cool stuff. We have interesting stuff going on, but there's not that much value to the outside world. But when you look at these bridges that hold tens of millions of dollars, if there is an exploit, people will find it. When you look at these exchanges, if there's an exploit, people will find it. There's multi-million dollar incentives on the other side. So I think that's the biggest thing that people have a hard time looking at initial sites in crypto is they're used to securing a debit card that can be turned off. They're used to securing a bank account where they have all these insurance programs and they don't have the same level of risk. Like there's a different carrot at the end of this. So people need to be very conscientious and think through these decisions.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, they do. Like a lot of people don't actually put, in my opinion, a lot of people don't put into the really thought what it actually comes to exploits, like where people have no idea where they're actually vulnerable. So that's where, like, you're sitting in an airport, you think like, hey, I'm safe, no one's attacking me, I've just got me and my cell phone, but your cell phone is broadcasting all of your data in a 365-degree radius. Granted, it's encrypted, but it's broadcasting it out, and anyone on that same network, same encryption. So yeah, it's very, very important. And I see we're actually getting some comments in the chat. So this is interesting. We already said this. So we're going to skip down to, let's get a little deeper into safe places to store it. Now, again, I'm going to reach out for simplicity's sake. And for me, I'm going to write this stuff down, and I'm going to write it down in more than one place. But okay, I'm Top Gun. I love numbers. I played with ciphers as a kid. So one cipher that I like is all I need, because that phrase, a lot of people don't realize, like, just those 12 words, if you took one word, like if your cipher was like pig Latin, take the first word and put it on the end,
Mm-hmm.
that's a cipher. And now anybody picks up your seed phrase to unscramble 12 words, not knowing what your cipher is, to actually run that's still not easy to crack. That
Right.
gives you a layer of insulation, or at least gives me a layer of insulation. So I have just a simple cipher. I tried to memorize my phrase. I put my phrase written down in several places in a simple cipher, so if anyone finds it, it's safe. And that's simple security for me to get started. So, I mean, on that, I've heard other people get more advanced where they write the words with engraving tools on washer edges and put them in bolt casings. Like, so what else can you add to that?
So again, the first two steps are one, the level of funds, right? So real quickly, when it comes to these things, sometimes again, the idea of like engraving on a titanium washer, using a cipher, like, this stuff starts to sound like a daytime TV movie to a lot of people. The thing is, if you don't want to do these things or these sounds sound obnoxious to you, you can go make 8 to 10% in the market. It's right there all the time. Just go get your stock, you'll be fine. But you didn't want 8 to 10%. You wanted 10,000x. That means now there's no help support. There's no one mowing the lawn. There's no bank. There's no one helping your security. There's no one to call. This is what you wanted. You wanted to have all the money. Well, that means you cut everybody out. You said you didn't want middlemen. There's no middlemen now. So now you're the one who's responsible for every single step of these things. That's why this stuff's important, and that's why the gains come forth. Um, so it comes along with the amount of funds you have in there. So the first one I would recommend is that it's really easy to hide things when no one's looking for them.
Mm-hmm.
So if you and again, this is a balancing act. So if you're like the crypto Sparbuck guys and you're traveling around and your cars are wrapped in hex and they're wrapped in pulse chain, they're the loudest things ever. Okay, you've given up some OPSEC, but you've done a great job with onboarding other things. You now need to take that into account on how you hide these seed phrases, right?
Mm-hmm.
I myself am very, very frugal in a lot of ways, and I'm humble on the outside. I don't do a lot of social signaling, but now I'm on streams. People know what I look like. A handful of people in the community have KYC'd enough that they could discover me. So I took that into account and went through all my process again. I've always been very security conscious, but I double checked because I was like, okay, I'm giving up some OPSEC by making it known that I'm a crypto guy. So I took that into account. So again, everyone can say, if you're not being loud, if people don't know you have crypto, you can factor that in. So again, things like fire safes are very secure. You always want to be conscious of those extra things. I have a really, really strong social circle, so I'm able to geographically separate these things in some ways because I have multiple locations. But you want to not get too cute, but you do want to take it seriously. So again, using multiple seed phrases. If you want to secure funds, again, you can use a multi-sig wallet and separate those seeds is a good way. Using ciphers, all these are good metrics. Just pick a couple that you feel comfortable with, and just make sure it's polished right. A lot of it's execution.
There is such a thing as overcomplifying
There
things.
certainly is.
So simple is the better, which is where crypto is daunting. Now, with that being said, simple is better. I'm still going to, because you've got a lot to say on this subject here, coming back to number 5. Let me put it to you in a hypothetical scenario. We'll paint 3 pictures. So, hi, I'm an investor with $1,000 or less. How do I set up my wallet or wallets? Hi, I'm an investor with five, with 5 to 6 figures. How do I set up my wallet or wallets? And I'm an investor that's obviously like in the $1 million club or higher. How do I set up my wallets?
Sure. So the first investor would have had bigger issues because they probably would have been on Ethereum, most likely, especially the one that operate in our space, use Hex and a lot of these tools we find very valuable. It's the lowest barrier for entry when it comes for information. It's the one people have heard of and are familiar. So likely they would have started on Ethereum. So as we've seen, especially here recently, if anyone got a chance to see those, the Gwei up in the 5,000-6,000 range, that's something I've never seen before. Naturally, it's not that high that often, but you had to be so conscientious if you were a 3-4 figure investor because of the gas fees. I mean, you could just eat up a real portion of what you were doing quickly with those fees. So in that case, I probably would stick to one wallet. I would have a hardware wallet. I'd lock it down. It's fine there. And I would scale in as I saw gains, right? If you catch a 10, 15x on one of these projects, now you're looking at 10 or 15K. Now you can afford to diversify those things. I would likely be quick to keep my staking ladder if I was using Hex to a few stakes. That way I could quickly move and diversify away from that address in certain ways. The other is that now with Pulse Chain, it's more accessible to have multiple addresses and lock these things down. So especially if you're using a hardware wallet and you want to say take out a stake that's very long term, 10, 15 years, you can generate a seed with that hardware wallet, move the funds there on Pulse Chain for fractions of a penny, a few pennies, create your 10, 15-year stake, lock down your seed securely, and then wipe that completely off the hardware wallet. You could do that with one. A lot of people will use two, but if you just do have a small, you're trying to be very, very conscientious of that early money, you can create a long stake there, delete it off, lock down the seeds, and know that you just don't need to interact. You need zero attack surface on that thing for years. And then you can go back to your original wallet, the one you activate, do little things a little more short term with. That's where I would start with it for a smaller investor. When it becomes a 5-figure, low 6-figure in that range, you should be using multiple wallets. We want to be a little careful pre-Pulse Chain launch about using things like Gnosis because you might not be able to have the front end on the other side. If you have a lower, someone that doesn't make sense yet, don't worry. It's probably not something you want to do without help anyway. We can explain that, and that'll quickly change here in a few weeks, and it won't be a problem. But Gnosis is a multi-sig wallet. I don't want to get too in depth. I just want to make sure people understand it's an option and loosely how it works. And then if you feel comfortable with that idea, then you can dig in. What Gnosis does is it's a smart contract that holds the funds. And then rather than having just a seed, it has signers. So I have a Gnosis wallet that say has 5 wallets that can all sign and say, yes, this is an approved transaction, the same way you'd sign a transaction with the hardware wallet, and it requires 3 of those. So I don't have any device that has 3 of those. So to get to those funds, they're locked away. I could actually give you several seed phrases, and it would not allow you to get access to those funds. You'd have to have at least 3. And again, those are separated on devices. So someone would have to get into more than one of my encrypted devices that are not in the same locations, and then sign all of those to get in. They'd have to know the safe was there, sign from all these transactions. Again, those are things that are a little more in depth, but when you have big funds, you want to add that barrier there. And also the other kind of silver lining to that is it stops me from seeing a red candle and getting itchy fingers, right? If I know that I have to go through multiple steps, it slows me down too, right? So it's a bit of a checks and balances there. The other thing is, if you are a 5 and 6 figure investor, is you can quickly become a 7, 8 figure investor very fast. And that is something that you should have a plan for. That crypto can get out of hand very, very quickly, and you'll be married to certain seed phrases when you do these long-term staking. And you can ask a lot of OG hexagons. It didn't seem like a big deal when they threw in a couple hundred and a couple grand. Now they care, and now they have millions of dollars tied to these seeds that they're attached to for years. So be forward looking, right? We've seen a few good examples here that we can move forward on, that we can learn a lot from. Don't be overconfident in your security because it's a few grand. It can quickly become something different. Look at what we've learned about being attached to seeds, having one basket, and on gas cost, right? Hold on to some pulse. Assume that that's part of your savings plan that goes along with your long-term stakes. Gas fees can quickly get out of hand, even on something on pulse. When we do these things, we're looking at 5, 10, 15-year horizons. Think 10, 15 years ahead. So absolutely don't keep these things in one wallet. You can use multiple hardware wallets if that's something you want to take. I don't think that's really a step needed, but you can take that extra layer of in case there's ever an exploit on a ledger or a Trezor or this, that you have multiple things, right? Once you start accruing that type of wealth, the worst thing that can happen is to lose all of it, right? So, segregate those things apart from each other. And, Gnosis is a great way. Different hardware wallets are a great way. Multiple wallets, all those are really, really positive things that they dramatically, orders of magnitude decrease the chances that you start to lose huge or all of your funds. I lost your sound, brother. Let me check, make sure my settings are good.
There, it was me. It was me.
Good.
There
Good
we go. Oh, we lost Walrus. Hopefully he'll be back in a moment. Let's just give it a moment here. All right. Well, while we're waiting for him, I will take a look at the comments here. All right, who we got in the audience? Paul Sachs, welcome. Tin Top, Heinz Crypto, Tortoise Johnny, Toad Dips, Alex Ferreira, AI Get some. All right, welcome guys. Not even having time. Walrus is back. I don't even have time to read these. Wow, this is more popular than I expected. All right, can you hear me now, Walrus?
Yes, sir. We're good.
Perfect. All right. So hardware wallets. I want to make just a couple points here that I think are important as I was trying to learn into this culture. So point one with the wallets, why I brought it up, was it's Ledger and Treasure are both doing the same job just as well. The one thing though is that forward thinking, like having a plan that your wealth may get larger. Ledger didn't think out their interface software possibly so well. So Treasure, during every update for the last 4 years, has the same interface, which means your guys, this is the reason it's easier to do tech support, is the options don't keep changing around all over the place. So Ledger provides the security, but the options will move or get renamed, and it gets a lot harder to give that tech support. So that's the one thing I caught out between the two of those. And the other thing, because you mentioned exploits, a lot of people think I've got a hardware wallet now, I'm 100% safe, I don't have to worry about another thing. Those exploits are almost impossible. They're very rare. But for example, Treasure, if it had the firmware of 1.61 or sooner, there was a guy, white hat hacker. I saw his episode. Someone had lost their PIN for their Treasure wallet and wanted to know if there was a way to recover the funds. And so he proceeded to buy one and try and see if he could find a way to hack it. And funny enough, it took him months to finally find the way in. But he found an exploit because they are very well written. The exploit, interestingly enough, wasn't like a brute force attack. It was a debugging attack. So it puts in logic attacks, basically scrambled code to spark the debugging software within the Treasure. And during the debugging load, occasionally, because they had left, like the way we talk about Bitcoin being spaghetti code, there's a poker app buried inside the code. So the Treasure code had a heading that all this line did was, if it accidentally got triggered, it loaded all the embedded passwords into the RAM. But by moving it to the RAM, as long as you had a diagnostic tool written in, now you could memory interface and text file all the RAM data, which means you could recover the password. Now, running this attack could go as quickly as 1 minute or as quickly as 3 weeks. They got lucky and did it in like 10 hours and ordered a pizza on YouTube. Coincidentally, the next firmware version, 1.62, eliminated that line of code finally from their firmware. And this is why it is always, always important to update your firmware, update your software. Hackers find exploits, software developers put out updates, right? So do you have anything you want to add in here there?
Just briefly, one, that was perfect. I'm really glad you touched on that. One of those things about security is, especially if you're listening to us, you do not have this all figured out. So even some of those things that Top Gun was just touching on, that's not where my experience lies. Like, I have a lot of crypto experience. Luckily, my beautiful fiance is in tech. She does some cybersecurity. She's always giving me, more I guess more traditional cybersecurity advice. Don't click links. Don't do that. Is your stuff updated? She was the first one telling me about the Google exploit to update those things. So know that you don't know, right? Understand that side of it, factor in being wrong. And that's, again, why we get into not holding everything in one basket, using multiple things. Always thinking that even though majority of these things are going to keep you safe, that if you think of them in totality, you're just infinitely better. Like, do how you do one thing is how you do everything. So take all these things serious and make sure you're being savvy and protecting those funds.
Heck yeah, because whatever you think you know today is what you'll know is wrong tomorrow.
The last one on that point, the other reason that we're so big on Trezor and Ledger and not, I don't actually really want to name drop any of the more fancy or some of these new ones that have come out.
Mm-hmm.
If you were going to go into space, would you want the latest and greatest, most revolutionary rocket that just came out last month? Or would you want the rocket that had been up in the space 10,000 times and always worked? I can tell you which rocket I want to be on.
Yep.
So with these things, if you're into the space and you think that these tools are neat and you want to experiment and be an early adopter and try these things out, by all means, like, there's great stuff being around. There is a balancing act between being conservative versus being dated, right? So of course we always may be forward thinking with security. There's a balance in time and market making devices safe versus time in the market being exposure for people to try to attack these things, right? So we use those because as of right now, they have one job, and that's segregating the seed from any hot source, right? Any kind of data source. So they do exactly what they're supposed to do. If you like some of these newer, flashier devices, experiment, play with them, engage. Bring those companies in the space. Start up smaller business. All these great things. Just realize that is newer, more revolutionary tech. There's a reason for that stuff, and it's not where I would want to stick big funds until those things have been very seasoned in the market.
Sounds like the best advice I've heard in a long time. No,
So,
a lot of people are always chasing the next new best thing, and that's true. Pulse chain is new, it's next, it's best, but there's such a thing as chasing too much. Like, all right, I tell you I can make a better version of Ethereum. Maybe you're interested, maybe you want to buy in. I tell you I finally designed that I'm going to design the world's first flying car. People have been claiming that since the 1950s. There's such a thing as your eyes are bigger than your appetite, like biting off more than you can chew. And a lot of people are so crazed with the new technology that anybody who makes a promise out in the community that, hey, this is going to work great. Have you tested it? No, not really. We just built it and rushed to market. And that's where Solana, am I pronouncing that right? Solana? Yeah, they just had, again, another, almost 24 hours down.
Solana works less than I do.
All right. Yeah. That's a fair point, because people don't even realize it's beta mainnet, which means it's still a test net. It's like if we had just taken version 2 VB and slapped money into it, beta mainnet, it's good to go. Like, that would be the equivalent of Solana network, but no, they're getting something better. But I'm digressing because we're here to talk security.
So quickly on that note, just as we're progressing, this is something that I find appealing and it's interesting. I've always really liked a bit of dichotomy. I like contrast. So like, I really like resto mod cars, right? Like, I really like those classic 60s, 70s, those beautiful shapes and elegant lines, and then I want to just stuff them with very modern twin turbo LS style motors or modular red cam stuff. Like that's the stuff that speaks to me, right? Like I love those classic lines, and I want to be able to hammer it with big power. Like that stuff's appealing. So when you look at our space and some of these things, there's certain aspects of like Pulse and PulseX and Hex that are like revolutionary, but they're revolutionary in the right places. Pulse uses EVM, it's retro compatible, same hardware, same software language, all these great things. But it's improved where we wanted it, right? It's the improvements we wanted, but a lot of the code is very similar. So in the places where it can be attacked, it's very seasoned. PulseX is just Uniswap.
Yeah.
Uniswap was great. That's all I wanted. It's
Mm-hmm.
fine. Where was it improved? Well, it has, a trustless buy and burn. That's great progress. It has this new routing where, again, being able to do that with some of the routing and burn LPs, those things are fantastic. So it's a revolutionary we want. It's tokenomics. I want a Pareto distribution on gains. I want high upside there. But when it comes to consensus and functionality, I just want it to work. Consensus is a pass fail game. There's things where I want upside, and there's things where I want a surety of performance, right? Some things are pass fail, some things have a bell. And I think that you can look at a lot of the things we've done in the space, and if people almost can't tell why something's revolutionary, that speaks to the beauty of it, right? There is magic, there's gains, there's design compromises that give you this fantastic upside, this greater breakthrough, this removing minor extracted value and efficiency, but it's still the same game and not so revolutionary that people don't know how to use it and that it breaks.
Well, that's where I want to dive on that even a little bit deeper, because the routing protocol, like you said, they updated that. And so I've been hanging around the dev water cooler a little bit, trying to finagle whatever I can.
Right.
And I watched them comment on that, and I forget what they were talking about, because I think in that instance they were referring to it being able to stop some sort of flash contract or some sort of instantaneous creation of something, like the improvement of, and I realized as they were talking about it, I'm like, wait, if this routing protocol gets expanded and improved upon, it may actually be able to prevent sandwich attacks. Like just the way it interfaces with the user and doesn't put into the memory. I'm losing the description. I really need to get into this even more. I don't have enough time to study programming, but the point is that what you think is an innocuous small thing that can maybe even reduce attack surface area can become surprisingly the next revolutionary thing. Like Bitcoin itself, just for the fact that it's the encryption scheme. It's not the coin. It's not the people that put it together. It's not the scammers that hold the exchanges. That encryption made that programming software valuable. And people have been copying it since and improving upon it. So, I mean, you don't think much about a routing protocol, but I was there for the construction of the internet. I had to program routers.
Right.
So when I talk about a routing protocol, I mean, people don't realize what went into the creation of TCP/IP. We used to try network combinations like daisy chain. Like, when you get to a stop sign and you're supposed to let the person on the side of you go first,
right.
and it's always in that order. Well, imagine you had 100 people trying to do that same thing, or like that's the daisy chain protocols, one after another, and everybody has to get in that same lineup. Makes no sense on larger networks. I got to redesign it again. That made a lot of attack surfaces. There was a lot of problems with that, and there was 8 different architectures until they got to the one that went, oh, we don't have to have 2 network cards in a computer or this or that. We just make one device. We take a switch and a bridge, we slam them together. That's a router. There we go. Everything's solved. Boom. So I mean, how things are done, it really does matter. When people slap things together, I'm probably going way too much.
I think there's a really neat one too. So I've used this example a few times, but I think it's one that a lot of times when we get in these nuance, like when you speak the router, I understand what you're getting at, and I have just enough experience to follow the words, but I almost don't know what the other options are, right? So there's one in our space that I think is a really, really cool example of where attack surface in one mechanic makes sense and on another it doesn't. You don't really have to be a programmer to get this one. So I think this is a really fun one. So in Hex, the consensus and all those things are locked away, right? It's immutable, it's finished, it's done, right? It can't be touched. There's no way to mess with it. Finished product, right? Not a project, it's product. In that mechanic, when you stake, burns your hex, right? Your hex isn't locked somewhere. There's not a smart contract holding all this hex, right? And when you end the contract, it mints plus your yield, right? Not interest, by the way. Even when RH does it, I can't stand it. There is no interest in that contract. One, you're using incorrect language, which is not that big an issue. But in this case, you're using incorrect language and is excluding a third of the world who has a bunch of oil money who maybe you want in your world view one day. So that's Reba, it's usury. Those guys can't use it. Stop saying interest. It's yield. Be more accurate and help with onboarding. But in that context, there's no smart contract that holds that hex. It gets reminted. The reason that mint function isn't a problem is it's immutable in hex and it can't be attacked. It can't be upgraded. It can't be messed with, right? It's very locked away. In Pulse Chain, when you delegate, it's not the same because it's a project in some ways, just like ETH, it'll always be updated. When you delegate, it doesn't get burned. It gets held in a smart contract. The same founder chose two different options in these. And this is where I think this is really interesting. So most of us have never really cared about either of these mechanics because they don't really affect us, right? We stake, it comes back, who cares?
Yeah.
We delegate, it comes back, who cares? But this is a really interesting mechanic. So in Hex, they chose to have a mint function and not a smart contract because it was immutable and never going to have to get touched again. Why have a smart contract that has a big bundle of value and give somebody a target for a lot of money, right? Now, again, attacking that smart contract is very difficult, but that is still risk. Now, in Pulse Chain, they didn't. There's no need for a mint function because it's deflationary. Now, as everyone who's listening to RH, what's the worst thing that can happen to a cryptocurrency? An inflation bug. So in Pulse, because these consensus can be updated, because we could change the number of validators, because we could increase block size or any of these things, it doesn't mint and it gets locked in a smart contract because it doing so completely eroded the need for a mint function. So in doing this small change back and forth used the correct attack surface from the same founder in two different ways. So because one could be changed, you were like, nope, we'll take the smart contract risk. We don't want a mint function. In the other, they said the mint function isn't as much of an issue. It's mutable. It's never going to have to be changed. We'll take the smart contract risk. And that's something that you don't necessarily have to understand the programming to understand sort of the beauty in using one solution or the other. And I think that's when people can process.
Don't do them at the same time. Don't try to carry so much at once. It creates more attack surface. More complexity means more issues.
You don't get to have no problems, but if you're good at life, you can choose which problems.
Well, that's much more accurate. Thank you. You busted me. Now I think we've been talking this whole time still. I had already hit the next subject. So avoid phishing attacks, please. So one of these things that doesn't, I think, get mentioned enough, because I try to tell people when I'm onboarding them, go to Metamask, like go to your app on your phone and get it, or make sure you go to metamask.io. Because now there's this census that we don't want to say bad things in this chat, but I'm here trying to save people. But I'm sorry, I'm throwing a life raft out there. It's made out of plastic. It might hit you in the face. Try your best to catch it. If you go to metamask.com, that's a phishing site, right? Like it has to be metamask.io that you go to.
Again, I would go confirm right now. And that's another thing. Don't trust me. Like confirm for yourself, verify these things, right? That's kind of the whole point of the discussion, right? I agree.
But go double check. But that's where, so phishing attacks, basically, the simplest way to put this is somebody will come and they will try and con you. They're going to try and appear official. They're going to try and appear legitimate. Now, they could attempt this through DMs or phone calls to you personally. They could attempt this through emails. They could attempt this through fake commercials, or even by copying a website and just altering the spelling of one letter in a name. That's happened to some people quite often. So you think
most people are probably comfortable seeing this with, or more familiar with seeing it on like social media platforms and fake accounts. Richard, where it's R, lowercase L rather than I, these types of things. I'm sure they're used to seeing these.
So yeah, this is the basic premise of a phishing attack, is you're being conned. So that means, be a little skeptical of everyone you listen to. Me, Walrus, anyone that uses our name. How do you know it's really us if you don't hear our voice? At least you've heard us on YouTube, so you've got a way to verify that maybe you're talking to the real deal. But you've got to be very careful who you trust, because anyone out there is always trying to convince you that you're doing everything legitimate. This looks all normal. Oh, but we just need your seed phrase. It's okay to trust us this one time. Ignore how many times we said don't give out your seed phrase. And then they give it, because all that trust has been built through a long con. So how are some good ways that you spot when you're being conned other than spelling mistakes?
So one is there's kind of a running joke on social media right now where it's if an attractive Asian girl DMs you asking about crypto, don't block her, block him.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Don't
and
believe what she
so
says.
that's
Block them.
yeah. So that's where kind of stuff starts.
Mhm.
Just kind of again, some of us have a little better internal barometer than others, but a little bit the smell test, right? There is no help desk in crypto. If
Mhm.
someone DMs you, if you listen, again, if you listen to us, we say don't act, I'll even tell people when they DM me, like, hey, yes, I can answer your question, but don't trust this. Go verify it because you asked me privately. You don't know that I have your best interest at heart, right? So
Mhm.
again, it can be a little counterintuitive. Ask these things in public.
Mhm.
You hear Papa B, J Money, myself. I've heard you do it as well. No, you can DM me something if it's particular information, but don't trust my security help in private. Like there's a reason we did a live stream. There's a reason we do these things very often, like the Telegram groups or Twitter Spaces. It's so that other educated people can say, no, that's not right. And again, in private, you can get lulled into a sense of, well, this Walrus guy, he's smart, blah
Mhm.
blah blah. He's on there with Top Gun, and you can build a false sense of confidence. And one,
Mhm.
it cannot be us, or two, you just don't know me. I'm a walrus, and for those that
Mhm.
don't even know the reference, the walrus name actually comes from a joke. It's a part of a poem, "The Walrus and the Carpenter," inside of a Lewis Carroll book, and the walrus is the shisty guy in the story. Like he's the creative one. He's the one stealing the oysters. So, as much as
Mhm.
that's not the case, it's a funny thing. I've always liked walruses. It just goes along with the pun, but be careful on these things and always verify them. So, make sure that you get security help in public in a lot of ways. Be
Mhm.
careful about sharing personal information, but you can trust for hardware wallets and set up. Verify everything from more than one source, whether that's a website. In very commonly in groups and in mass communication, I'll say, here's the address. Don't go trust this. Go verify it from RH's stream. Go verify
Mhm.
it from the Combat Impulse chain. If you see the link in either of our profiles, go verify it again. Get it from at least two good sources. So and again, that kind of goes back to talking about like multi-sig and hardware wallets. They force us to take another step to be calm rather than going, oh, that sounds good, and just hitting the button, hitting the link, canning over the words. You set these things up to give yourself processing time. So
Mhm.
again, getting contract addresses, like don't trust those things. That's why we constantly say in a lot of these mass spaces, don't post addresses because we don't want anyone trusting those things. So get everything from verified sources. Try to get another verified source. Don't trust DMs. No one reached out to you publicly or privately just trying to help you make $1 million. There is no one you can send one ETH. They will send you two back. Just you know, just try to pressure test some of these things, and always confirm. There's nothing here that you're going to miss in 2 seconds. There is no incentive worth rushing these things, right?
Mhm. Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, because that's where I really got encouraged to do this episode because you're aware of the situation. I found someone. Well, someone found me on Twitter, and the way they were talking, I was afraid they were getting scammed. So I thought, oh, maybe I can help this person. I'm gonna make sure. Okay, they're on Telegram. They don't use it much, but they've already been in the Pulse X and Pulse chain room. Should be safe. I'm gonna get them on here and try and get them talking to someone I know in the Pulse dev chat. That's all about missed sacrifices. So this is kind of on topic. It's safe in that chat room to talk in there, not on DMs. And I guess I didn't stress enough not to share your seed phrase, not to trust DMs, because he was very comfortable talking to me. And yeah, unfortunately, he got into that chat room and took things to the DM and got talking with a version of you. And because I was quite busy at the time and he's asking for help, and I mean, I want to be helpful, but I am not tech support. I don't get paid to do this. I have to break my back at a day job. So I'm just doing the best I can at the community here, but I didn't notice the spelling mistake in your name and said, yeah, that's him. That's fine. You can talk to him. And in that, out went the seed phrase. And I have felt guilty ever since. So that's why I've got to put together a security episode on this. So That's why I think it's very, very important to keep everything in a public setting where those group chats, like you said, the DMs. I've noticed basically the easiest way to spot a scam is someone directly messages me. That's right it. If you hit me up and we weren't talking previously, we didn't engage with a vocal, we don't have a reason to know each other, you're not there to help me. You're there to scam me. Like I had two people
Assume it
impersonate
every
you.
time.
I had two people impersonate you when I first came into the chats.
I remember
Um,
when you messaged me, you said, "Hey, is this the real you?" Because
yeah,
you're used to the way I type and the way
yeah.
I
I
speak.
never
So you know,
realized I had never actually DM'd you because the first one I busted right away, but the second one did a good enough job that he didn't ask for my seed phrases right away because I screwed with them right at first. I'm getting scammed, so I screwed with them. So they didn't ask for my seed. So we talked a little. They impersonated you, but they're like, no, I'm never gonna get this guy, obviously, because I finally went back and I double checked and I went in and there's that TM and I'm like, no, they slipped in an extra L. That's cute. So yeah, I had to even double check that. I mean, for everything I'm doing, yeah, I had probably a good half an hour worth of conversations with a scammer, thinking I was talking to you about something we had talked about in person in a chat. So
yeah.
talk about missed connections. I had some very good conversations with you about extending
Sorry, I
on what
missed it,
we
buddy.
talked about. Yeah. Yeah, so don't get phishing tagged. Like that's where okay, this guy, it was one thing to talk about with someone that DMs me. Okay, you want to know what kind of socks I buy from Giant Tiger? You want to know my gardening tips? Sure. I'll even talk to you about the pimple on my butt. But are you getting my seed phrase? No, who the hell are you? Get on the phone. Let me hear your voice just so I can laugh at you because you tried to get my seed phrase, and then we'll still keep talking if it's really you.
This is
Like,
another one of those things where Mama was right. Nothing good happens ever dark, and no security advice ever happens in private.
correct. All right. So I think that kind of beats it out for my talking points with security. So before we move into how to pulse an NFT on Pulse, is there anything else that you think we kind of missed or need to go back and talk on? And maybe we'll even open up a little quick Q&A section for like 5 minutes on security before we
Yeah,
talk about how to pulse an NFT.
yeah. I just have one quick point, and
Yeah.
it's really more of a. Yeah, I'm sure you know. Like, I'm very big on decision making, right? I like to think that I'm a relatively smart guy, but I like to think that I have an exceptional decision making process. Like I make good use of the processor, right? Like I have zero problem telling you that you, Profex, DOS, all those devs, all you guys have a much, you got a lot more RAM and processor in there. I have to be efficient with what I have. And
Mm-hmm.
one of those things is I like to have lenses to look through things to help with decision making. And something that I want to remind everyone is, especially if you're a Hexagon, if you're newer to crypto, all of these things, for a long time, our ecosystem was pretty simple. It was on one chain. You used Uniswap. You could have just used Metamask, and you staked. End of the
Mm-hmm.
story. Well, all of a sudden, our space got very complicated, and I think a lot of us have been lulled into being like, I'm in RH's space. Everything's fine now, right? I'm not on BSC. I'm not getting rug pulled. And
Hmm.
in some ways, I think we got a little comfortable. Now there's, there's Hedron and there's Maxi and
Mm-hmm.
there's, meme airdrops. And now there's two chains and there's a
Mm-hmm.
PulseX and there's a Pulse and there's liquidity and there's farming and there's bridges and
Mm-hmm.
it just goes on and on and on. And
Mm-hmm.
all of a sudden, like now, to just if we could have engaged with everything in RH space and been in one project. Now you got to know if you really want to touch everything RH in this community is building, you got to be in everything. You have to know everything
Mm-hmm.
in crypto top to bottom, and none
Mm-hmm.
of us have that capability. So I know there's a lot of really cool shiny things, stuff that I'm personally building, stuff we're involved in, stuff my guys are working on. Take your time. There is nothing,
Mm-hmm.
anyone, including myself, my team, there is nothing we're doing that is worth your funds. Don't pick up pennies in front of freight trains. Don't chase shiny things. Do one step at a time. If you like what we're doing, cool. Come ask us. Come to the Telegram. Spend some time with us. We'll educate, learn these things. Take a small portion of portfolio. If you like PulseX, you want to do liquidity farming. Cool. Take a small percentage of portfolio. Learn about impermanent loss. Figure out what pairs make sense. Take your time with these things. Our space got complicated.
Mm-hmm.
Acknowledge that. Take it a step at a time. This isn't as simple as set it, forget it, stake it, forget it, that kind of
Mm-hmm.
thing. There's a lot going on in our space. There's risk on contract exposures when you connect to these dApps. There's, bridge exposure. Our bridge is fantastic. I don't want to add any doubt, but I do want people to understand risk. Like, bridges are a huge point of exploits. They're a huge attack surface. Ours is built by really, really smart people who care about our community. They use the Omni code, which is very battle tested. They touched on a few things. I don't think they want a lot of the specifics out, but they did a great job. But our space got complicated. Take your time. It with a lot of these things, yourself, right? Like, you don't write computer code. This isn't where your depth of your understanding is. But you're a fantastic mathematician. You like game theory. You like number go up, and you focus there, right? Like, that's where your meat and potatoes is. Me, I have a unique kind of spot in the community because I'm not especially gifted. I don't have a huge amount of background in these things. So because I have good decision making, because I have a wonderful group of people around me who are smart, yourself included, I usually have the answers, not because I'm smart, but because I had the same question and I got to ask smart people first, right? So take your time with these things, one step at a time. Find, if you're just in Hex or you're just in Pulse or any of these things, and you're new to the space, see what speaks to you. If you think liquidity pools and where this value comes from is interesting, fine. Start there, do that. If you think bridging and the poker chip analogy I use and moving value is cool, great. Do some research on bridges. Take these things a step at a time. Focus on what speaks to you, and don't overcommit and just add confusion to yourself. Confused minds make bad decisions.
True. So true. Now, on that moment, that actually brings up, I'd like to confuse folks for a minute.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. So I'll work backwards on the 2 points. So the first one is on that, it is very, very important to have that healthy skepticism of all these new projects. Keeping that in mind, it's the new projects that come to the chain that bring users, that bring business, that make the chain grow. So it is important to do your research and investigate some of these things because, yeah, you've got to be careful. Like I do have a layer of where I used to program in Borland C++. I used to be able to use the terminal in Red Hat and Ubuntu. I used to program in JavaScript and HTML. So, I mean, in the 90s, I was using Cain and Abel to packet sniff for Wi-Fi networks to get access, allegedly. So I do have the old technical understanding where I really want to dive into this stuff, and it is impossible to know it top to bottom for any type of networking software or system, because once you get into the language, you realize, well, okay, so I know a bit. I can get by like, ¿Cómo está, mi amigo? ¿Una cerveza, por favor? Like, yeah, I can go to Mexico and order a beer. Can I sit there and have a philosophical debate in Spanish? Heck no. So do I know enough programming to do this? But so, I mean, the deeper I go, the more I figure out how much I don't know. But diving into this, there are some projects that I do believe really enforce the value on our network. Like, NFTs suck, but there's a couple NFT marketplaces coming to our project, and a few of them realize that there's utility in NFTs that is unrealized. And if you can improve the utility in the NFT and make the NFT holder more wealthy by having a better product, you then in turn make yourself more wealthy. And that kind of forward thinking where we can improve this and go into it. Like, so there are projects, which I should probably just have a little bit of, no, I'm going to do a separate video on that. I'm not going to go into the security on all these other projects, but it's important to take your time, I think, to realize, can you find a face for someone involved in that program? Now, by listening to that person, can I trust their motives? Can I trust their intelligence? Okay. And is there any track record behind that person? Okay. What about the code they're using? Are they mimicking a battle-tested code, or are they writing something brand new? Are they planning audits? Are they making the coding available to be read? So people, are they being transparent? There's all sorts of activities that right off the bat, you can kind of see. Like, I've noticed in networks, it's very common if somebody is promoting and they have the flashiest advertising, they're spending their money on the marketing, and they need
Do they have a partnership with Microsoft and Visa?
Pardon? Yeah.
That you can still, people can remember a lot of that 2017 language when it came to a lot of those ICOs, and it was, oh, we have a partnership with this or that, and again, you have this, it starts to look like the crypto version of that Fire Festival.
And that's where for me, what it was there were people that were obviously close enough in the community that they knew this was coming long enough that after the sacrifice, like there was a group phase, like everybody knew, okay, version 3 is coming, we can test our software, time to get the sacrifice, get it finished and get on Pulse Chain. They were all waiting, they all believed in the movement. Maybe one of them is secretly trying to rob us, but who knows? Like, you really got to be careful who you trust. But everyone right there, for me, it was like, you guys are all prepared, you've all been talking to each other, even if you don't love each other, you at least respect each other. This is a grouping that I can get behind. And then I've watched the flood, like, oh well, now that they got away with it, let's slap something together and try it too. And that's where it's like, crap. I mean, just because people were first doesn't mean that they should be trusted, and just because people were last doesn't mean they can't be trusted. But for me, it's an initial barrier that I have. So diving a little bit deeper back in, though, about other projects, when we get into deeper security and programming. So like I mentioned, it's been a while. It's been a minute since I've touched anything complicated like Linux. And I say complicated because people don't realize, like, all right, if you're using a Windows-based operating system or Mac OS on your phone or anything else, that thing is buttoned up tight. It is closed. Now, exploits still happen, which is why you see the Apple updates often, but how many viruses or scamwares or anything do you hear about on their software? They don't allow a lot of attack surface. They don't allow for a lot of editing. There aren't a lot of exploits. This is why it's usually safer, in my opinion, to use. It's simple. You don't have a lot of option, and when there is a problem, you can't do a lot to fix it because you don't have those options. You got to wait for them to put out a patch. But for your user that can't dive into much, they are pretty safe as long as you trust the Apple cartel, because this is a bunch of people that do have all of your information. Moving along, then you have Windows. Again, the Microsoft cartel collecting all of your information. And with this, you have a lot more options. So, I mean, you can go into the registry. You can edit the values in your Windows registry if you know how. You're most likely going to crash and kill your computer if you don't know what you're doing. For me, the only reason I would usually go into my registry to edit anything was if I was playing a prank on someone and wanted to rename the start button to something else or move it with a little bit of Visual C or Visual Plus, but or A plus. But the other reason was spamware, bad attacks, malicious software. Sometimes when you get a really nasty virus, trying to get rid of it was almost impossible. No matter what you do, there was something buried in the MBR, the master boot record, and the actual files on the hard drive. So when that thing spins up just after the BIOS check, it does a check for the operating system and sees missing files and puts them in there before it even starts up. So the only way I could get rid of that thing is go into the registry and, here's its startup value. It talks in binary, ones and zeros. If I change that 1 to a 0, it means it doesn't start up anymore. I just neutered it. It can stay installed. So, like, these complexities, the point of this is, if you're willing to go this deep and start understanding what makes a computer tick, find Linux. When you get into Linux and you've got the terminal, you basically have the registry and DOS all in one. You have full access to your operating system to program into it in live time, to change everything about it and to shore up your security. Now, changing Linux isn't generally needed. It is very secure as it is. So you need to set up a proper firewall if you're using Linux. Again, that's not hard to do these days. Now, when we go to VPNs, if you want to go that extra step, so when we talk about firewalls, so how paranoid are you if you want to go down this well? Like crackpot theories. Another benefit I had was in high school when I was learning about programming, my computer teacher was a retired military programmer. And the military actually screwed him out of his pension. So he was an angry retired military programmer. So he taught us a lot of things, like how to make a poor man's railgun out of speaker wire, copper tube or steel tube, an oscillator, and a car battery. He taught us how to make tasers out of flash cameras. He taught us high-end networking protocols and exploits. This is the reason I know Cain and Abel. And then he also taught us the whole reason he got disingenuous, or just he lost faith in his profession and moved to teaching. So in the 90s, a lot of people don't realize the military was having a lot of problem cracking firewalls. I mean, firewalls in the 90s were difficult to brute force against. And you hear about things like Snowden, where, the NSA having access to everything. You know where that started was everyone's comparing me to McAfee, and I don't want to rip on dear old dad, but McAfee and Norton, as the two leading security providers in the 90s, got pressured by the American and Canadian militaries because they wanted backdoor access. And they got pressure to the point where those companies would not exist if they hadn't given over that access, which gave military backdoor access past every one of those firewalls that they released from that point on. So this kind of access, like it's more prevalent than people realize when you're just trusting stuff. So if you really, really are that paranoid and you follow me down the rabbit hole this far, yeah, you're downloading Linux and you're about to figure out how to use it. What you need to research and look into next is setting up a proxy chain. It used to be easy from Windows 98 to specify use this proxy and even use another one, but it just takes a little bit of code to set up a proxy chain. But how do you do it? What is a proxy? Well, what you're saying is my data isn't going to go straight to the source. It's going to make a pit stop. So you can take public proxy servers and you can use those, but 50-50 chance on whether they'll turn over their data if someone goes and asks them for it. So you got to be careful what you're choosing for your proxy. But you just say it's going to go to this stop, this stop, this stop, then the source, and then it's going to go back through these stops before it gets to me. That's a VPN. That's a proxy chain. That's how you keep yourself safe. But anyone who hosts it for you, they can keep a log of your data, even if they say they're not. So that's why you got to learn to do it yourself if you're that paranoid. And if you're doing it yourself, you can get into decentralized proxy chains where people like the Tor network can actually sign up and keep themselves a little bit anonymous and rotate in and out of proxy service. And so that decentralized chain does the routing for you, and you can hop through. And you if you do this wrong on this network, though, it gets a lot more complicated. Your chain will just stop working. But now that you've gotten this far in this paranoid, Snowden I brought up earlier for giving that wonderful access to the military finally made up for his boo-boos and wrote a piece of software called Tails. Keeps people off your tails. Works really good on Linux softwares. It closes the backdoor access that the NSA generally has to your system. So there are things you can do to deep dive, learn more about security if you're that paranoid. But start by learning Linux. And if you can't do it, don't try it. You'll make yourself more vulnerable. If you can, though, look up decentralized proxy chain servers as a service. And if you can do that, look up Tails. That one, I assume, is probably going to be the easiest to use because Snowden was pretty good at his job. So, yeah, is there anything else you wanted to ask or touch on that after I did my security rant there?
Just a bit about that rant that I'm on the stream, and I got about 60% of that. And I mean that like as a tip of the hat, my little goofy one I got going on here, to that this community is special because we're very selfless. And as I was saying earlier, no one can do this all by themselves. As clearly technical as I've always said you are, you are a little new to the community and the space in some way. So while, I like to think of things in bets, like as a function machine, your function machine is exceptionally calibrated. You're very technical, but you may not be able to have the best filter about what goes in. And that's where maybe I have a little more background in the space and the people where I can say, hold on, where did that data come from? You're gonna have a great job coming out with it. So if I say, hey, I have A and B and I'm trying to figure out C, I'm not the guy. That's what Top Gun's for. But if you're trying to verify maybe if A and B are correct, maybe I have a little extra social engineering side of these things, right? So we're a team. It takes a team to build these things together. Yes. HowToPulse, exactly. And so again is I agree, and that's where we always say, trust these things. There's people better at hardware wallets than me. There's people better at everything. I'm sort of a jack of all trades, and I'm good at pointing to very positive actors. And it takes the tribe, right? So 100%. I'm so glad you've been in the space when you have, and you've done the things and stepped up in the way you have. And we really, the community appreciates it, brother.
Well, thank you. I still got a lot to do because I only just started learning Solidity, and I don't have. I know we want to do a
Q&A. I do have a hard out in about 8 minutes.
Pardon?
So I know we want to do that Q&A, but I have a hard out in about 8 minutes. So if we want to make sure we get that in a little bit.
Oh, all right. Well, I mean, we talked a little bit about HowToPulse.com. So before we go to the Q&A, then let's quickly cue.
And we'll always do another stream.
Your other project here, NFT on Pulse. So I have a little segment here to let everyone know this is your time in the chat that you can cue your hate for the altcoins. All right, go ahead, get your hate out, say everything. Like, what do you mean? Another project, another sacrifice? What are you doing to us? We hate you. and it was a trap. The mods have muted you. Now we can field some actual security questions. So
Right.
but before we blast right in that, what is NFT on Pulse? Like, you guys are doing so much to help. Why are you bringing the crappy NFTs back?
So a lot of times I try to bring it back to the audience. I would have a little different spiel if this was a more NFT sort of forward community. If so, again, you can look at it from a few views. One, even if we disagree with the majority of NFTs, you probably disagree with the majority of ERC20s, but one of them's Hex, right? Most of these layer ones aren't that great. One of them's Pulse Chain, right? So it's the same thing with NFTs. And I think that a lot of the reason that this community is so against them is because the pendulum is so far the other way, right? So, you know, RH jumps up and down and screams, not because the tech is bad or that they're evil or that he hates monkeys or, you know, any of these NFT projects, but because somebody just spent $3 million on a JPEG of a tweet that you could have just looked up, right?
Yeah, that you don't even own. You don't even own it. You own a deed to it. That thing is actually on a server somewhere that could come off.
Correct. And there are some contracts that allow you to write NFTs fully to the chain. They're basically non-existent on Ethereum because of what we've seen recently. So the few reasons for, I'm going to answer the question for people who don't care and probably aren't going to use our project, right? Because I think those people deserve answers too, because they're in the community and they matter. So one is the two communities that are likely to see the biggest results and the most advantage out of Pulse Chain, besides the people who sacrifice from a fiscal standpoint, are people who use DEXs and people who mint NFTs. So if you wanted to onboard and bring value to the chain, that's the places you start, right? So Hex, you know, doing the biggest airdrop, okay, cool. That takes care of all the Uniswap, the DEX users, the smaller coins. The other's NFTs. Building something of value to where those people can move in and get away from something where there's $7,000 charges to send ERC20s, where people, I'm not exaggerating, have spent double digits ETHs to mint these things. These are people who share your worldview at some point. Maybe they don't agree with what we're doing on other things, but they agree they want a network where they can do these things less expensively. And the other one I brought around is Hex is a store of value, which is a big part of where we come from. If there's more value to store, there's more value in Hex. Bingo. So if you don't like monkey pictures and you think that is a bad store of value, why don't you give those people something better and a better chain and a better network and a better project, and then you can share your worldview with them. So the more NFT communities mature, they'll have better NFTs, things like HSI stakes, things like ticketing. A lot of the best uses of NFTs are completely railroaded because of the barrier to entry on Ethereum. So more things will come out of NFTs on a better network with a better project. More things will come out of NFTs if our community is speaking to NFT people and these things are meeting in the middle. And if you want more value in Hex, you need to be able to share Hex with more people.
Okay, so you guys are very committed, very aware that NFTs currently are limited. So you're not just bringing NFTs to the marketplace or to the space. You're actually trying to improve the utility of NFTs, make them more like contracts, more like patents. Like there is actual utility or real world deeds to land. Like, no, you can't hold land. Land sits where it sits. You need a deed for land. Why not an NFT?
And while the NFT space has gotten ahead of itself, and we because we've seen it be exploitative, and when it comes to art, there's also to me, even the real art case hasn't really shown through yet. So one of the people who's a very good friend of mine that I got into the sacrifice is a fantastic artist. His sacrifice money is because I commissioned a piece from him. I was like, okay, what do you usually charge for a commission? Perfect. I'm going to put that into the sacrifice for you. Paint me a piece. And so I think even in art, which is what we're used to thinking of NFTs, hasn't really gotten to artists because the small players are so railroaded out of ETH that, again, I think as soon as people start to interact more in our community, a platform that we have some features that are very artist forward, and the barrier to entry is lower. Again, even I think art is really not being taken advantage of with the NFT tech yet. So I think we can quickly bring in the people who are being exploited, and we can quickly bring in better use cases and a maturity of that space.
All right. No, that sounds perfect. So All right, just to rush through here because you got like 4 minutes left. I'm
Right.
gonna let you take a look at the comments here, and I'll let
Yeah.
you pick what questions you want to answer. And then when you get going, I'm gonna keep this party going just a little bit and do my best to
Cool.
field any
Cool.
more questions. All right, so you have access to the chat from your screen, right? You want to go ahead and start going through?
Let's see here. Maybe a little tough for me.
Okay. Let's see. I can start going through them quickly if you
Okay.
want. So I'll call them out here. Let's just click through them quickly. You
Uh,
got your shout out, I think. Oh wait, let's go back to
yeah.
the beginning.
M312005.
Wow,
You got your shout out.
there's been so many here. All right, that was
Yeah.
early. I
Sorry for.
called out most of these people. Okay.
Yes.
Uh,
Oh, there's a good one there. So,
okay.
Alex, you can use any hardware device on Pulse Chain. You just need to use Metamask as the front end. On HowToPulse, we have a lot of descriptions on how to do those things. It's very simple. You just need to use Metamask as a front end so that you can use the custom RPC and connect to the chain. But absolutely, you'll have full protection and functionality out of the hardware wallets, just not their native suites.
All right.
Hexy Cat, what's up, brother? Good to see you, man.
All right. Mr. Cozy Desk. Hey guys, good to see
Good
you.
shout out.
Yeah, I've seen him. He comments on my, and so does this guy, Tortoise Johnny. These guys actually comment on my videos. I'm glad you guys turned
Yeah,
out.
man. The animals, man. We're a special group here.
Okay. So sorry if I'm skipping your comments, but I am looking for questions and shout outs here. So
Then again, guys, we're again the community focused on being very accessible. So if we didn't get a chance to shout or you have anything going on, all Twitter, Telegram, you can actually email and things like that on HowToPulse, whatever is easy there.
okay. Boom. Still great move. I'm looking for questions. I'm even skipping the shout outs. I'll come back for that.
Yep.
Here was a question. Let's see.
So hardware wallets. So let me read the question out just in case anyone's just listening. A lot of times people do that on long streams. So 4-5's Hex said, when using a front end like MetaMask, can someone still ask for your seed on your Trezor? So hardware wallets do one very specific and important thing. They segregate those seeds from the software wallet. You can still absolutely connect to a malicious app and give it permissions to rinse the wallet. The hardware wallet will not help because you told them that it was okay. That's how the chain sees it. And you can absolutely give those seeds to someone else. They do not have to have your wallet to make that work. If I have your seeds, I have your money. It is that simple. You can never give those to anyone. So hardware wallets stop somebody from getting access to those through connecting through the device. You can still give them out, and you can still connect to a bagged app for permissions.
All right. Okay, Lucas Lepook wants to know, is a GRC90 anything like an ERC20?
Lucas, why are you throwing hardball questions at me? Lucas is a fantastic dev, a fantastic musician, and also happens to be part of the HowToPulse team. So he doesn't have questions that any of us can answer.
Oh, all right. Because I was going to say basically, yes and no. I don't even know, but the simplest terms is an ERC20 is a type of crypto, which means it has a classification, which means it has its own little custom tail ways that it interfaces. A GRC90, which I've never heard of, would be another type of crypto, which means it may even be on another network, which means it is definitely different and will not be included in the doubling effect when we get our free airdrop. I'll hit that one. Thank you, Lucas. All right.
Red Squirrel, I do have something personal for him. One, as part of the animal crypto groups, always a big shout out. Also, you do need to get over your stage fright. We want to have you come talk. For anyone who hasn't seen it, Red Squirrel has a very, very cool couple of different layouts on strategies and ways to interact with a lot of the third parties. Not that you need to. It has some great layouts and visuals on launch strategies. So, Squirrel, keep up the good work. We always appreciate it from the community. And if you ever get over the shyness, we'll be happy to have you in the HowToPulse room or streams or wherever we can get you.
Yeah, here's the first peer pressure. My Telegram chat is very cozy. There's only 100 people in there. It's a lot of good people.
Quiet, it's friendly, Squirrel. Come talk to
Let's
the group,
have an
buddy.
AMA in my Telegram chat tonight. You can get to know just a couple people, and then you can come on my channel. Nobody watches me. It's safe. Nobody will know.
We know squirrels are a little skittish. It's okay. Come on.
All right. Oh, do we have another question? What's this one? Danger Zone. I'm going to see that movie when it comes out. Talk to me, Goose. Yeah, of course I got to see
I
Top.
may or may not have wanted to be a pilot my whole life growing up. So one, I know every single word to that movie. And if anyone ever wanted to give me silhouettes of most fighter planes and bombers, they would think I was autistic in my accuracy. So I love pilots. I love planes. I've always been a big fan of that. So one, I get the pun and joke, but yes, I'm going. I'm absolutely going.
What was the line exactly when it was we can still go to truck driving school, right?
What's the name of that? Truckmasters? I
Yes.
might need that.
Yes. What was the name of
Every
that
line,
school?
buddy.
Truck
I'm not
Masters?
exaggerating. Every line. Dad,
Love
number
it.
54. The seed phrase is your 12 words. You may also hear it as 24. You can generate 24 word seeds from different devices. It's not native to Metamask. It's also similar to a private key. So a seeds and a private key both give access to that address. You cannot give out either. That's different than a public address. A public address you can share. The private key and the seed words cannot be shared. So one, just to make sure, I'm assuming you're a newer user, your seed words can never be shared. Your private key can never be shared, and they can be 12 or 24 words.
So this is something I've found interesting because I've told people your public address is what's safe to give out. It's not your private address. And I've told people that your seed phrase is how you get into it. And then the way I understand it, because I haven't looked into the software enough, is basically your public address kind of wrapped with your seed of phrase makes your private address. Like that's, but I don't even know where to find the private address. Like that's kind of how the encryption works, to my understanding, in its basic terms. But I don't even know where to find that private address.
So
Like,
one seed can generate multiple, you can generate multiple addresses and
mhm.
multiple private keys that all come back to the same
Mm.
seed.
Okay, because I have noticed that one seed will do multiple accounts, so each one of those is its own private key.
Each one
So
of those has its, yeah, correct.
okay,
They have separate addresses,
so
separate
if I
private
generated
keys with
those
the same
in
seed.
MetaMask, I can easily find the public keys to
Correct.
give out. But how do I find that private key?
I'll tell you off air. I actually
All
don't
right,
want to say anyone it said because anyone that goes looking
they're
is
gonna go
asking for
tamper with
trouble.
it, give it out, and do something
Yep.
stupid. That is one of those. Don't hit them in the face with the life raft. All right.
Do as we say, not as we do.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I'll talk because I'm curious enough that I need to get into that for programming stuff. But yeah, the general audience shouldn't.
Yeah, I'll
So
give you the rope.
yeah. All right. I do appreciate that. People right now are going, come on, but we want to know. No,
Mm-mm.
allowed. There
You
is
don't want
times
it.
where if you don't know how to find this out on your own, we're not telling you.
Yep.
Here's a good one before you go. Ouch.
So I give the same answer, and I know it sounds like a politician PR song and dance. It's the absolute truth. So I don't know Gerardo and those guys very well at Mintra.
Mhm,
I've seen a few of like Gerardo's streams. I know he's well known in the community. Everyone has a lot
mhm,
of appreciation for him. So I obviously there's somewhat of a limited resources, but there's really not in crypto. Like
mhm,
there's so much money, there's so many projects, there's so much time, there's so much preference, there's so many design decisions. I really don't see them as competing, and I think that if Mintra does better, genuinely, I'm not exaggerating.
mhm,
I think it's more likely that NFT on Pulse does better because
mhm,
if we are successful in moving NFTs over to Pulse, there's more market share. If
mhm,
we do a better job promoting Pulse and making it marketable in the home for NFTs, then we will do successful. I think that it's more likely that both fail or that both succeed than that one or the
mhm,
other does. And again, I like to bring another one because they're buddies of mine and because I truly feel that way. Pixel Park, there's another NFT marketplace being built by the Power City guys. Those guys are personal friends of mine. I hang out with those guys at conferences.
mhm,
We're going to party in Vegas. I talk to those guys almost every day. Ty, Triplet, Pulse Jesus, Toshi. All those guys are
mhm.
great, man. Like, it's much more likely that we all succeed than we all fail. So, of course, when they're out, we're going to take jabs and we're going to roast each other and we're going to tease and blast and meme at each other all the time. It's in jest. I hope every one of these guys does well. And the better they do, the more likely it is we do.
Mhm. No,
That's not PR. That is genuinely how I feel. These
that is
are They're the
actually,
big ocean.
I feel like, I mean, yeah, I'm not gonna hammer on you in this because it's much easier. I'm just gonna say I invested in Mintra. It's part of my portfolio. So I mean, if I saw you as a competitor, I should want you to fail and not have even asked.
Sure.
So me as someone who's already put my money where my mouth is, I am gladly welcoming Gerardo, who put together look into
It's fantastic.
hacks.com, and
Yeah,
then
it's
bring
great.
on Gerardo HowToPulse.com. You think these guys aren't both trying to help the community? You don't think they're going to go after different demographics? You don't think they're going to complement each other? Like, that for me is my general assumption, because I got in and I got talking with Gerardo in an AMA, and then what was so amazing is, like, you hear maybe say AMC is going to do their new metaverse thing with Walking Dead. You somehow get into a private call, you want to make a suggestion to them, you're just going to get laughed at as a noob and pushed out. I got talking in that AMA call. They were very receptive to hear what, could go on. And as I got talking, they took point after point about, wait a minute, yeah, what if we made NFTs better? What if we looked at utility? They were open to it, where a couple of them were like, dude, we're just trying to get ready for launch. Okay, I can see you're very goal oriented, but the rest of them were, okay, once that's done, what do we do next? So I mean, there's a divide in that company about how much further they're going to go after launch. I like to see utility and foresight, but they've got the smooth interface graphic. They've got some players lined up to bring their NFTs. They might take a marketing kind of approach, and that's all right. We need some way to get people's attention occasionally. We had to buy the broadside of a NASCAR. Yeah, Richard didn't, but some advertising is necessary as an evil once in a while. You guys, however, I talked to you guys a lot. I mean, it was Lank who was kind enough to, I think he wanted to come on stream here today, but I didn't hear from him. But maybe I should double check.
Hopefully he does. That's
Yeah,
something
I'll
that we're
double
going to
check with
do, a
him.
big team thing with HowToPulse. But I say it all the time. It's not a humble brag. It's not PR stuff.
Yeah.
I am smart guy adjacent. I talk to the smart guys. That's why I sound smart. Like the devs behind me, Lank, Lucas,
Mm-hmm.
Timor, UV, Kryptonite, all these guys, man. J Money, what he does on security,
Mm-hmm.
LJ on making sure that we're smart in the real world, not doing dumb things. I Hodl, his experience, everything he's brought to the table. Like there is a group of smart people, and the
Oh
same
yeah.
thing I would say the same thing about Gerardo Mintra, that I have never been anywhere where we had too much genius. I've never been anywhere where there was too much brain power.
Oh
I'll
yeah.
take all the smart people I can get.
It's Lank is the whole reason that I have an impermanent loss calculator, because I was like, providing liquidity, you have to be rich to do that. And then Lank's like, hey,
Funding
well,
Jim was
look.
actually shilling you in your calculator in a Twitter space the other day. Again, community, it's a
Oh,
team.
nice. Well, yeah, well, that's where he turned me on. He's like, you should provide liquidity. So he got me looking into it. And then that's where I keep so I'm gonna roast you right now since I've got a face.
Get it.
Everyone who wants to post a comment asking me where to find my math, get him. No, get him. Get him. They offered to put it on their website a month ago. Okay? Get them. Stop sending me the mail. Send it to howtopulse.com. My math will be there when it comes.
Lank, dev guys, come on. I'm the front facer. I did my job. I look cute on camera. This is it. Like I put the hat on. Get my math on there. Let's do it.
Yeah. So no, I like, because I'm quite happy just tooling away the math and then showing it off. But I know people have got to be getting frustrated to see some of that. And I mean, most of it is just as it is. It's read and set and ready to go. But I think I do owe Lank a special, like, hey, this is the version of the PulseX calculator, because I had to build like 14 of those as I was tracking the rumored changes to PulseX. And that's where I couldn't believe, like, my live stream went out with KG and we got like 2 viewers. No, we got up to 20 at one point at one time. We had 130 throughout the hour, which wasn't too bad. But oh man, I'm going on a tangent on this, but I'm not even sure what point I'm trying to make now. I've just been so excited with these live streams. It has been an awesome pleasure to have you guys on. Like I looked forward to Lang. I look forward to this. It's just had me spinning in every which direction, full of excitement. So I just want to say thank you so much for coming on here. But
it's a pleasure, man. Like I said, we don't have an abundance of genius. I'm more than happy to have someone of your time, talent come and dedicate time to space, brother. People don't understand how expensive some of these people in our space would be if you had to go buy their time, and they do so much for free.
The information I give out for free, I know some people charge $250 or $400 an hour for, just for the basic premise of how the program.
I recently was helping someone who had been compromised, and they were spending $500 an hour for chain analysis that you could have got in 10 minutes from a Telegram room, and it'd been more complete.
Yeah, or from me in 2 minutes because I finally figured out how to use Etherscan properly.
Right.
Yeah, I need to look deeper at wallet chain analysis, but yeah, that stuff, it's getting easier and easier to do. But so the ratings, it kills me. I put out the moon math. I do a video saying, hey, here's your clickbait, 100,000x, 4,000 views, no problem. Kill my subscriber limit. Everyone wants to clamor to see my math, even with bad audio. I want to put out a security video or tell you about something else you should know about that's important. Oh, I don't need to click on that, and they just
We're going to have
avoid it and
6
walk
viewers
away.
counting the 2 of us.
Yeah, and then so one of my first videos was update to PulseX. So I'd been saying PulseX math on the chat forever, coming to video, and then Richard Hart drops the tweets that made it look like you could stake for PulseX. So I had to redo all my math, thinking that's the case. I never took it off because I'm a firm believer that people should be able to see my mistakes. I'm not perfect. I make mistakes. This is my history. But sure enough, I put out that live stream, hardly any viewers. A video I put out 2 months ago, out of nowhere, spiked and got the same amount of viewers as my live stream or a little bit more. And it was about incorrect math for PulseX. And I'm like, face palm. Like,
Right.
come on, people. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. But man, I'm dying of thirst yelling at you to drink.
Right. Yeah, guys, like I said, I got that heart out, man. It was an absolute pleasure to be on the stream. Thanks so much. Everyone, check us out, NFT on Pulse, HowToPulse on Walrus on Twitter, Walrus on Telegram. Make sure it's me if you're going to try to talk privately. And please stick around. Top Gun's a brilliant guy. It's a pleasure to be on here with him. And his moon math's a lot of fun. And he's, again, as you can tell, he's a very savvy guy. He has a lot out of the community. We're glad to have him. And thanks so much for having me on, brother.
Oh, thank you for being here. Thank you for being here. You take care, Walrus, and thanks for letting me keep you a little late. You take care.
Brother. Y'all be safe, guys. Appreciate it.
All right, guys. So we're nearing the end of the broadcast. I'm gonna have a look here at the comments and see what I'm missing, if I can field any chats here. So I can slow down a little bit on this. Going back, let's see here. Let's just go back. Where was I? Here. All right. So we are at 4:15. We're getting back that far. Hi. Will that? Oh, here's a bit of fun. Oh, yeah. What I should do is Sunday, start reading messages like Don DeLuise. This summer coming to Blockbuster. All right. Well, that. Can you give me a shout out? M3120A05X. You have been shouted out. Monkey. How the F does monkey come from that alphabet soup? Hessico, let's go. Hey, what's going, guys? What's up, guys? Hi, Walrus. I have a question. I have tried the group, but no answer. Does anyone know what possible percent of rewards would be by delegating our Pulse to HowToPulse Delegator? Thanks, man. Well, he's gone, but I'll try to answer this one for you. Simply enough, the delegators have to get into rotation. There's no guarantee a delegator will be in rotation. Once the delegator's in rotation, here's the issue. If you provide your bags to the delegator and you make up 10% of what was provided, you're going to possibly get 10% of the portion of profits, kind of is the idea. If you provide 1%, 1% of the profits, so on and so forth down. So, for example, the interest rate, the yield, what's happening, the actual inflation rate is 3.69% a year, I believe, on HEX. And because less than 10% of the holders stake for it, they get to see 100% of those gains. And to them, it looks on average to be 38%. So you as a delegator, what's going to matter is how many other people are delegating and how much pulse did they throw in. The smaller your piece of that pie, the smaller your percentage of that gain. I hope that answers that question. All right. Are you competing with Mintra? Well, we beat the crap out of that one. HowToPulse.com. I love fishing in saltwater compared to freshwater. Oh, wait, wrong chat. Oh, that was great. Crabs and shrimps are the best. Oh, yes, I am a shy shrimp, according to the Pulse Doggy coin. Thank you guys for telling me. I was always curious, how small was I on the seafood list for the aquatic wildlife spectrum that is investors? Get a big old boil going. Bring a bunch of friends. Get some stolen dinner. Okay. You know, peaches and cream. Has the Bergen Cajun too? Okay, wow. Nobody, you're just beating me up here. What up, Alex? Unblock Paul Sachs on Twitter when you get a moment. I got wrapped up in a mass ban for some reason after the Twitter storm. Love you, bro. Well, thank you, Paul Sachs. Hopefully you've been able to find some help. Kind of funny. No, not really. Talk about living where you work. I am right. Or am I right? Oh, I do live and work from my home, kind of, yeah. This gym rat fitness challenge. That's hilarious. Oh, now I feel really sad. I'm like another type of crypto. Ha! So much for my guesses. All right. Red squirrel. Yeah, stop being such a squirrely squirrel or skirty squirrel. Good thing you're a good sport about that. Technically, I'm a sandpiper. Grid. Lettuce 1. No joke. I'm going, bro. I feel the need. I need for speed. The need for speed. Oh, where's that crash music? Here's some music to crash your car to. Yeah, this is so related to security. Or you could pretend to be all right terror. Whoa, I can't even say that word without the algo getting me. Watch it, guys. I'm not even going to hit that one. Well, funny enough, that at Top Gun at Hexadian, Red Squirrel, you're in Telegram with me. Like, we're in the look into hex.com chat. You've commented. You've seen my Telegram. I have a chat room, so you can find it. I have a channel. It's t.me/Top Gun Crypto. That's simple. Top Gun Crypto. Now, in the pinned messages in that channel, because you can't type in there, there's actually the hidden Easter egg of being able to get in there and join another chat room. That one is the game theory. Top Gun game theory. Don't know if you can search it on Telegram without the direct link. You could try. All right. This is fun. I actually have an audience to play with. I mean, what did you do in high school? Me, a lot. A lot of things that were borderline illegal, except my teacher taught me how. How to identify a scammer. Yeah, I think we did beat that one a little bit as best we can. When the internet was young and before the Geek cult took over 4chan with its cousin and pony porn. Summer children. Normally syntax, to be honest. Thoughts on BAYC land NFT sale last night? No idea. I missed that, but now I'm going to be looking into it. And wait a minute. Aspiring community. Mohammed is here. I know that picture. Thank you so much for jumping into this chat. All right. Boom. Speed data and special math and private key. Private key plus more special one-way math equal public address. I think anyway. Oh, your seed data plus the special math and the private key, or equals the private key. Okay. Not the public address, but somehow the public address is derived in there. Private key plus more special one-way math equals the public address. So yeah, I knew that I thought it was the private key and the seed made the public, but I guess you're right. That would give somebody a starting point to decode it. Well, there's always got to be some way to go back, but whatever. I need to get into the programming deeper. All right. I'll get it for you, Red Squirrel. Cheers. All right. Oh, wow. People are putting that gibberish. That's how to find my telegrams. Wow. All right. Cool. Learned something new. Blue, you're here. Thank you. Geez, I worked as a bounty hunter and all night lighted as an escort in the EU to get my seed money. All while going to college. Wow. Wow, nobody. I am quite impressed. I'm glad to have you here. All right. Yeah, that's right. Pump that up for its strength. Am I catching up in the chat? I'm 12 minutes behind 13. Are you guys going nuts? Are you being nice to me? Yeah, me. Love it. Telegram. Like and subscribe. Yeah, if you're still here and you haven't liked and subscribed, get bent. Ducks. All right. Blackstone was named after a man who died at massacre of Wounded Knee. Interesting. I'm learning things here. I was interested to listening to Walrus before Pulse Jane Sack and the voice chat for months. Thank you, brother. I've been here today without you. Nice. I'm sorry he missed that. Walrus, if you're watching this again later to see what you missed, this is what you missed. Wouldn't be here today without you, for Mohammed Nasir Assad. Thank you so much for the love and outpour. Okay. See if there's any questions. All right. Let's see, am I catching up in the chat? I'm trying. Boy, math. Nah, I got 2 hits. Oh, bro. Love moon math. All right. Yeah, mumbling on channel now. People are loving this. People can just read these if they want. All right. How do I'm sure there's got to be a way I can set this up on banner to just keep going. Q or GQ magazine. I've heard of that, but I have no idea what it is. Ooh, HowToPulse, Netflix, John McAfee, version 2B. I feel like I'm just gonna have to change my name to that. Mr. McAfee is how I'm going to probably respond at PulseCon. I am flattered, guys. I really appreciate it. I'm doing my best to provide help. I don't know everything, but what I do know is yours. Okay. Am I finally catching up here? I think so. Up to 4:38, 6 minutes in lag. Okay. All right. Getting there. I'm only a few minutes behind. There we go. And there. Finally, you guys stop pouring in the chats. I am all caught up. All right. Is there actually any serious questions? Anybody is still hiding on here? I'm not even sure how many streamers have stayed through for all this. Anybody? Bueller? No, it's actually finally gotten quiet. I think that might make the end of our show, folks. No actual questions anymore. All right. Well, this has been a lot of fun. It really has. It really, really has. So, again, this is where you can find me at Twitter, and this is my Telegram chat where if you check the pinned messages and go through them, you'll find the link for an actual chat room where you can chat with us some more and get more information. Again, don't fall privy or fall victim to DMs, private messages. Don't trust your own mom. Don't trust God with your seed phrase. It's precious. It's yours. Protect it. Maybe your firstborn should be protected as much. If your wife's beside you, nod yes. So, anyways, and we know if she's not in the room that you're going to protect this thing more than your firstborn. All right. Thank you guys so much for tuning in and for watching. I'm going to double check here and see if we're going to have a second bonus round. Where is Mr. Link? Let's see if he did comment about wanting to come on here. Does anybody else have something they want to say before I close this live stream? Oh, I see comments just started flooding in. Of course, you guys did that to me. Why can't I find Link right now? I forgot to send him a link. Even see. Oh. Yeah, I guess he got busy today. It's not from him. Oh, yeah. If so, yeah, the spreadsheets, like Walrus talked, those are coming to Pulse. All right. So there we go. Let's take another look at the chat. We're up to 8 comments. We'll address those before we end the show. All right. Last, got to respect that. All right. No questions. No, we don't have any. When Jesse streams. So I'm trying to, I talked to him very quickly. We had a quick DM. He's a very busy man. Pretty much if you're talking to him, tell him to check his DMs. I'm not going to stalk him. I have enough restraining orders. I've got references when it comes to a stalker. These days, I ask for permission. Can I be your stalker? I have references. I haven't asked Jesse, so he's you could be a stalker. But I would love to have him on later this week or by the weekend. Sometime in the middle of this week is going to be the long vacation because we're going to take a look at Power City. A Bugs Bunny, party wise. What's up, Doc? Be bowie quiet. We're hunting for bunny wabbits.
No, if you want to hear voices, Mervin the Martian is actually one of my favorites. Go to hell, Earthling. I'm going to de-atomize you and steal your Lambo and all of your crypto.
Well, haha, Marvin. I didn't share my seed phrase, so you can't get my crypto.
No, you wretched human. You figured out my ploy.
That's right. Not even Martian can get your crypto if you don't give him your seed phrase. All right. Is there a way for me to leave this chat going after I close so you guys can keep chatting? Why it burn when IP, LP, IP? All I gotta say is stay off of Backpage, buddy. No, you gotta. There's a higher standard of living, and that you shouldn't be running into these problems. Is all I gotta say. Oh yeah, for more life hacks. If you're having issues with breakouts or bad skin, I found out because I got around and about in the community for a change. If you finally talk to people outside of your normal small social circle, you can find out things like, did you know that your average Caucasian person gets a very ashy? What's ashy? Flaky, itchy, skin flaking off, but you don't see it on us. Shea butter. You got to get shea butter. And you get this as a soap. But you don't want any additives. That'll cause breakouts. Yeah, it's very important to get it from an authentic manufacturer. Research shea butter. Who makes shea butter? SHAE. Look for, private vendors, smaller people that make it themselves, less likely to have additives, better quality. This is what I've been told anyway. This is what I'm looking to buy. More life hacks with Top Gun. Nothing to give. Yeah, message him. Okay, looks like just more private banter going on to here. All right, yeah, you guys, thank you so much for tuning in and having fun with me tonight. At this point, yeah, just again, pretty much it's a see you next time. We've put in almost 2 hours on this live stream, so yeah, I might be pretty quiet for the beginning of the week. I've got things to do, but I will be coming with a video about Power City, the benefits it's going to bring to our community, the kind of demographic they're going after. Long vacation will be on. We don't know exactly what time yet. We were aiming for Wednesday, but something's come up with that. So may work better for Tuesday or Friday, I think was what we were discussing. So hopefully I'll have a chance to talk to him about that and get my advertisement out. And after that, if we're lucky, we can get Jesse on here to talk about the benefits of a sound-backed stablecoin, what Liquid Loan does. And then if we can also get him talking about the inherent evils of KYC, but why they are very necessary, what you need to know about accepting them, and potentially ways to improve them if he's willing to talk down that subject line. So thank you, folks, as always, for tuning in. And yeah, at the end of every live stream, if you're around in the chat and you want to have fun, what I'm going to say is put 3 stars, you know, those little asterisks in front of your message. And those are the ones I'll read out loud with the "oh yeah" voice this summer, coming Sunday, security with Walrus. So yeah, I'll do voice impressions for you guys if you ask at the end of every video, just for the hell of it, since you stuck around and have enjoyed my content. Thanks for tuning in. Have a great day, folks. See you next time. Until next time. Where's the stop button? Oh yeah.